Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Quote from the great Mewtwo from Pokémon, the first movie. Humans may have created me, but they will never enslave me. This cannot be my destiny. Thanks for joining us tonight at Systematic Geekology. Today we are exploring the topic of Pokemon and animal cruelty. So one of the undersides of the Pokemon world. Are our favorite Pokemon our friends, or is there something more nefarious afoot? We'll get into all those questions in this podcast. So I'm your host, James Demmel, and with me tonight are Elizabeth, Pang, and Barb. So how's everyone doing tonight? What have we been geeking out on recently?
Gosh, what was it called? Barb, you go first. I have to find the name of my new anime.
Okay. For the past week or so, we've been going through different animes with the kiddos. As you know, our oldest is 9, our youngest is 2, so we kind of have to find something in the fine line between what's appropriate. And so we've been going through season 5 of the 90s Sailor Moon. So we are 5 episodes away from finishing that. So
nice. Sailor Moon is great.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing the most recent 3D Sonic game recently, Sonic Frontiers. So that has been really fun and has sort of consumed me for like the past week. I don't know why. I just saw some Sonic stuff on YouTube and I was like, let's do it. And it's actually been a really fun time. So one more intro question tonight. What are our favorite Pokemon? Since we're talking about Pokemon this evening, what are our favorite Pokemon? And I'll start out with my favorite Pokemon, which is admittedly a weird one. I actually have 2 favorite Pokemon. My first favorite Pokemon is the Pokemon Kingler because of the original Pokemon anime. And I always loved that when Krabby pinched Ash. And then when Krabby evolved into Kingler, and when Ash was in the Pokemon League matches, I had been inspired ever since. My other favorite Pokemon, I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. It's a childish reason. Is I really like Fortress because it's a tank, and I think it's cool. So those are my 2.
Why don't you guys guess my favorite Pokemon?
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like you're not giving us anything to.
Okay, well, a hint. My favorite color is yellow.
Oh, Psyduck.
I do enjoy him. I do have headaches, but it's Pikachu!
Pika!
No.
You guys are watching our YouTube channel. For those listening, I am holding literally a giant Squishmallow Pikachu that is bigger than I am. That's not even an exaggeration.
It is the largest Squishmallow I've ever seen. It's impressive, truly.
It's pretty big.
Very fun. He has his own room, and I'm not even exaggerating.
I think we need a YouTube tour of Pikachu's room.
I mean, it's not that impressive. He sits on the bed in the guest room.
Oh, fair enough.
But it is like the only place he can fit in the house.
Fair enough. Okay, Barb, what about you? What's your favorite Pokemon?
Mine is an oldie but a goodie from Gen 1. My favorite is Ninetales.
Ooh, Ninetale Fox. Good call.
Mm-hmm. These foxes are my favorite animals, so of course Ninetales.
Right on. Makes sense. So let's go ahead and get into it tonight. And as always, for our listeners and watchers, head on over on your streaming platform of choice and give us a rate and review if you like what you hear tonight. And as always, thanks to our supporters for helping make this systematic geekology thing happen. We're glad you all are along with us. So as we turn to Pokemon and animal cruelty, what are your earliest memories of Pokemon? I feel like for people of like our generation, like Pokemon was like life for me when I was a small child.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was like, I remember playing Red and Blue, like just for me, like huge part of my life. Anyways, what about y'all?
For me, well, my best friend in 4th grade actually got me into Pokemon. I had a crush on her older brother, of course, and they both, were like, hey, you should play this trading card game. You should play these video games. And in order to make him happy, I'm like, okay. But I really got into it on my own, and I'm like, this is really cool. Collecting the cards. I already collected Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time, so I'm like, this is something else I can collect. And then it just grew and spiraled, and hasn't gone away.
Fair enough. What about you, Peng?
It was the year 1996 when Pokemon ventured to the United States from Japan. And that was when my life has changed. Pretty much. I remember it from the beginning. I remember it when it was coming over. I guess I'm probably older than you guys, which is fine. I don't mind dating myself. But I remember getting the game Pokemon Yellow for Christmas with a Game Boy with a stack of Pokemon cards. And a lot of you guys, y'all have seen my probably thousands of Pokemon card collection. I've like brought them up before just to goofing off showing you guys. But I just started this obsession of funness. And bonus, guys, this is truly like serious. I am married to my husband today because of Pokemon. That was the first common ground we bonded over, and I was like, I can clown with this. Like, I can get down with this clown. I don't think if it wasn't for Pokemon, I would be married to my husband today. And that is the God's honest truth.
That's sweet.
I love that.
Pokemon.
That's incredible.
Yes.
That's sweet.
It's very emotional.
That's great.
But no, yeah, love it
Yes.
so much. A little too much.
A little too much. What's everyone's favorite Pokemon game?
I liked Gold. And then
I was a silver guy.
That
was my favorite.
I liked Gold. I loved doing the Pokemon shows, like the pageants and stuff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was so fun.
Why am I not surprised?
I think for me, I enjoyed Crystal the most. It was just so different than the other ones.
Yeah, Crystal's
I
fun, for sure.
lived in the safari area for some reason. Like just trying to catch the biggest pincer there was. Like I went there all the time. Even after I defeated the game, I'm like, let's see if I can get a bigger one this time.
Fair enough. So yeah, we're all fans about Pokemon, and Pokemon. I feel like we don't need to necessarily explain the plot or the world of Pokemon. It's like one of the top grossing franchises like ever. So if you don't know Pokemon, I feel sorry for you. Please go find Pokemon and get Pokemon in your life somehow. So let's start to think a little bit deeper here tonight, and just right off the bat, get into it. Do we think that the Pokemon franchise or the Pokemon world, right, embraces animal cruelty? Is animal cruelty prominent in Pokemon? What do we think?
You have like some of the gym leaders. I remember whenever Ash went to the not so great gym. He wasn't really a gym, but with the Sandstrew. Wow, can't speak tonight. I'm currently choking on my water. But remember, they had like those exercise equipments that almost look like torture devices.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I mean, but
Like
yeah. Like he was treating them kind of like his, workout. Not even workout. That would be too nice. But like he kind of, treated them a little like slaves. Like, if you guys aren't going to be strong, we don't want you. So that's I think the earliest episode I can think of that can relate to animal cruelty. But even at the end of the episode, like the Pokemon wanted to train harder because he loved them and they loved their trainer in return. And then you think about how Charmander got abandoned.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They're like Pokemon addresses this like right up front, right? Like the opening episodes of the original anime, like like think about these sorts of questions. So I think animal cruelty is like present in the Pokemon world, but I don't think like that's the main thrust of what that franchise is trying to do. I mean, I feel like they are trying to work against animal cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
However, the facet of Pokemon battling, right, are Pokemon Battles an instance of animal cruelty?
And I just think there's a fine line between it, kind of, because you have like a couple episodes where you see like the Pokemon actually enjoy going up against one another, but there's also the battles where the trainers who are not so great keep going even past their Pokemon's limits, and then you see when Pokemon faint, the trainers get mad or annoyed or anything like that and try forcing them past that specific limit. That, I think, is an instance of cruelty. But at the same time, you see instances where Ash will pull back when he realizes that his friends are like either in trouble or getting to the point where he knows that they're not going to win. I feel like that's more teamwork than slavery or cruelty.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think bound up with this question is the question of like, is any violence ever appropriate? Like the question of like war or battle. Like you can make Pokemon battle for good ends. You know what I mean? Like, Pokemon partnering with Pokemon can do a lot of good in the Pokemon world. It can also do a lot of evil. Hence the Team Rocket teaching kids about animal cruelty meme we have before us this evening. But I think about Pokemon battling on like through the frame of like athletics or like competition in general, right? Like competing, like athletes get injured. There's whole competitive sports, boxing, MMA, all of that stuff where like, it's a spectacle to see two challengers, irregardless of whether they're like not, come together and like, test their mettle against one another. I think that's what Pokemon tries to capture. The difference here, and I think the question then becomes, with Pokemon being at least mostly sentient beings, is it like a form of slavery and like forcing them to fight? Like are Pokemon battles akin to like dog fighting?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see, because the Pokemon did not technically have a choice most of the time. Obviously, you see instances like Squirtle, who chooses to be with Ash and whatnot. But if you think of like a wild horse, the horses don't choose to be broken. When I adopt a dog from the shelter, it doesn't choose to be adopted by me. So I feel like the same principle, like we do today. The animals are not. That's why I get so frustrated when I see people adopt a dog or get a dog, and I'm like, we're just too busy for it. I'm like, you made a commitment, which I feel like a form of animal cruelty in itself, because like you literally gave that dog a home. Now the home is being ripped away, and the dog had absolutely no choice. I'm also obsessed with my dog, like I am Pikachu. And you can't hear that in my voice. But so I see it in similar scenarios, but as far as like slavery, if you will, like as long as you treat the Pokemon right, and you see, just like today in our current lifestyle, you see some people who will become best friends with a Pokemon and their teammates, and they train together. I mean, Ash has taken the hits with Pikachu a lot of times trying to protect him. As well as some people, they treat their animals like family, or they use their animals for dog fights. And so it's just good and evil in Pokemon and in our lives today.
Right. I mean, that's why, Team Rocket in the Pokemon anime is and so like such a nefarious organization, right? Because they capture Pokemon like with the express intent of forcing them into like these battles for nefarious ends, and they mistreat them along the way. Right. I think Pokemon like overcomes like accusations of animal cruelty, because if you treat your Pokemon well, like if you effectively partner with them, right, like they sort of choose you just as much as you choose them. And so, no, you're good. Go for it.
I never understood like the trainers. Granted, Ash didn't catch a ton of Pokemon. We're all still frustrated with him about that. Why didn't you catch more Pokemon, sir? You gotta catch them all. It's the logo. But with the people who catch like hundreds of Pokemon, how do you even have a relationship with them? So
Yeah.
is it just being, like it can't be healthy for the Pokemon just to, I guess, go to the research center and chill? Obviously, we've seen in like Professor Oak, whenever they go to him or whichever professor, they don't just stay in their Pokemon, so they kind of like go into almost like a sanctuary Pokemon,
like a pasture,
almost.
yeah.
Like with Ash and all his Tauros. When did he even catch all those? Like, it's a safari game, but still, like, why? Why? Like, you didn't catch so many Pokemon, and you caught like a dozen Tauros. I still don't get it. But that's just my little side rant.
I think it was an accident.
Yeah, but can you? I guess another question, aside from the cruelty, is can you get too greedy catching the Pokemon? Do you really need to catch them all?
Right. I mean, to be fair, like, you transfer your Pokemon to Professor Oak, and they live at this awesome preserve and they're taken care of. So, I mean, they're still like having a good time, I think, hopefully.
It's like a zoo.
Pokemon Zoo, exactly. Pokemon Preserve.
But some people hate zoos today. Some people feel like zoos are taking the free will of the Pokemon. I mean, the Pokemon. I'm combining two words. That zoos, take the free will of the animals, and they should belong in the wild. And that's still even zoos. And today is like animal enslavement, even though they are in some cases needs to be rehabilitated, or they can't be released into the wild because they can't survive. But in the Pokemon cases, they're catching Pokemon just to go. And technically, Professor Oak, he does it for research, so it's still good happening from them. But is that a form of slavery? It's, I think, a gray area.
I feel like if he had caught them and then do what they do with sharks or other animals that they're researching, if they maybe put like a tag on them for their research and then release them, that might have been a bit better. But it's like, keeping them locked up just for research and study might be a bit cruel. But if they're only keeping them for like a certain amount of time and then like rotating through like another Pidgey or another Tauros or something like that for comparative data, that would be an interesting take on it.
Yeah. I mean, the aspect of like completing the Pokedex, though, if you're going to complete the Pokedex and catch all like 1,026 or whatever the number is currently of Pokemon.
In my head, there's always just 150. There's 150.
We need to end doing the Poke Rap. Who's that?
We should have played that game.
Dang it. Next time. I don't know how to play a game on StreamYard. I'm not that advanced yet. Another time. But yeah, so the creator of Pokemon, I pulled a quote from him, Satoshi Tajiri, who that's in the Pokemon anime in Japanese, the main character's name is Satoshi after this guy. He found inspiration for Pokemon in his childhood hobby of collecting insects. Right, so this aspect of like completing the Pokedex and studying the natural world and like a fascination with creation, I think is part and parcel in the background of Pokemon. Like if you're doing Pokemon well, like if you're playing well, or if you're inhabiting that world and you're coming more and more into, I don't know, this sounds goofy, but like friendship with creation and with these Pokemon, right? Like harmony with them, like, then yeah, it's a good thing. But it can also be used for, great ill as well. So we've already sort of been talking about animal cruelty and sort of where the line is with it. So is it fair to say, as long as we don't mistreat animals, as long as we don't mistreat Pokemon, we can partner with them for certain tasks or ends?
I would say so. Just how I would use ox to help plow my field. Like if it's a mutually benefit, relationship, like my dog gives me a lot of joy and happiness, and I give him lots of cuddles and food. You know, we got some mutual benefits going on.
Symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, and Pokemon does a really good job. I mean, 90% of the time, the Pokemon are happy with their trainers. Like, this is the whole premise of the show was created to train them, to catch them all, to have that. It mainly shows teamwork more than anything. And granted, you always have a few bad apples that spoils the bunch. But yeah, I feel like it's well done. And I mean, just look at Pikachu hugging Ash. They look so happy. Like, I'm just gonna hug my Pikachu now.
They look so happy.
We interrupt our regularly scheduled podcasting for an important message. My name is Tejas. I come to you today to inform you that for as little as $0.00 a week, you could in fact help us by joining our Discord channel. We'd love to talk to you guys there. There's a ton you can do on Discord. You can hang out with us, talk directly to all of the hosts, ask us questions, get more involved in our community, and join in future watch sessions. We like to hop in a voice channel and stream something and watch it that way. It's a really cool way to, get that sitting on the couch experience from home and, living a couple 100 miles away from each other. It is my favorite thing. I would really appreciate it if some of you joined so we could hang out some more. Thanks. And back to your regularly scheduled podcast programming.
So it is an interesting question. In 2012, I'm going to go to a new slide here. The organization known as PETA actually launched a campaign against Pokemon Black and White 2. I've never played those games, which is a shame. I played the first Black and White, but not Black and White 2. Anyways, called Pokemon Black and White, Pokemon Black and Blue, gotta free them all, right? The point of this campaign was, or this like spoof game they make was the Pokemon like get free and are like trying to take down now the trainers who are enslaving them. The whole point being, the Pokemon franchise supports animal cruelty like inherently somehow. So this is like an actual
world, guys. Calm down.
I know. I read an article about this, but I mean, to be fair to PETA, I do think the things that we watch and consume like shape sort of how we place ourselves and act in the world. I mean, I think that's why we're here in systematic geekology, right? We're talking about intersections of the fandoms and geekdoms that we love and our faith. But yeah, this one, this was a real thing. It happened in 2012. So sad. And it's a segue then into what I want to talk about next, because I feel like we can't have this conversation about Pokemon and animal cruelty without talking about the recently released Power World game. If you don't know, on Steam, there has been a game released called Power World. A lot of people say that it is a blatant ripoff of Pokemon. If you look at some of the designs of the Power World, they're called Pals, not Pokemon. Some of them look very, very similar to Pokemon. So like in this like title image of the game, like you see there's a pal that kind of looks like Pikachu and Piplup. And if I go here to the next slide, here are some pals with machine guns that look eerily similar to Wooloo. And so Power World was released in January, and it has like sort of went bonkers viral online. It's like in the month it's been out, it's now like the second most streamed game on Steam ever. And so the premise of Power World is like you start out in the wilderness, sort of with nothing, and you have to catch pals using a pal sphere, right? Not a super original name, but you have to catch pals, and then you can have them do some of the same things you do in Pokemon. You can have them battle other pals, you can catch wild pals, but you can also make the pals do certain tasks for you. So you can have pals farm, you can have pals run bases. You can also capture pals and then consume them as food.
Ooh, delicious.
The internet spoof of Pal World has been, it's basically just Pokemon with guns. These are like real, like this is a real image. Like in this image, there's some Wooloo like pals with machine guns, and you can give your pals a variety of weapons, and they can use said weapons to for various ends in the game. So Pal World and Pokemon compare and contrast. Compare and contrasting these two things, right? Very similar premises. You're in these worlds with animal-like creatures that display some amount of sentience and awareness, and yet Pal World kind of goes off the rails in terms of allowing you to do almost whatever you want with them. Pokemon sort of doesn't give you those options. So, have either of you encountered or heard of this game?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I looked up a couple of like gaming videos and stuff about it. I'm not like a huge gamer like that, but the fact that you give them guns, I just feel like it's violent for no reason. So like you could have had them done something else. I'm not anti-gun. We live in the South, so yay. But I just feel like having those cute little like sheep. I'm like, there's just no. I feel like you're just trying to get the 10-year-old boys to want to play it. At this
Right.
point.
I feel like maybe if you'd given them like tools to work with, or like, you know, give them the shovel for digging or for farming or something like that when they're doing their tasks, but blatantly like giving them warlike weapons to that magnitude is, especially for like any children who are going to try to play the game, is
Sure.
a little bit more violent than I would prefer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So actually, it's kind of funny.
You secretly love the game and it is obsessed.
No, I can't play it. I can't bring myself to play it. I kind of want to check it out, just because I've heard so much buzz about it online, but I can't bring myself to do it because I do feel like it sort of goes off, like runs off of animal cruelty. And I feel like Pokemon's different. And
also eating them, like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there are like hints in the Pokemon world that like Pokemon are eaten.
Yeah, but it's always taboo though.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I was at youth group. I'm a youth pastor, and I was at youth group on just this past Sunday night for a weekly youth group time. And as we were getting started, like some of our middle school boys were just like chatting, and they like are like, Pastor James, come over here, and then they like pull up a picture of Pal World, I think it was actually literally that, you know, Wooloo with guns meme, and they were like freaking out about it. They're like, I'm going home and playing this right now when I get back from youth group. And I'm like, is this the first time you're encountering this? And they were like, yeah. So like one of my kids had encountered it and then like spread it to all the other boys that are like 12 in my youth group, and they were all freaking out about it, and it made me deeply sad inside.
I mean, they're playing Gears of War, which is way worse.
Yeah, they wouldn't admit to playing Pokemon because they're like too cool for school to, you know, they just wouldn't do that, even though they probably all play. But I guess they should, right? Correct. But they were very enthused about Pal World, and it made me quite sad. So yeah, comparing and contrasting this new franchise with Pokemon, I think leads to some fruitful reflection. And so this sort of gets me to what I want to end with, which is talking about Pokemon and creation care, which are two things that in my mind that I put together. For me, I love the Pokemon franchise because I do think it teaches in a, you know, abstract sort of sense, like, you know, we should seek after harmony and partnership with creation, which I think is God's throughout the scriptures, right? Creation was first. Humans were the very last part of creation, and we were put in the garden to sort of till and to keep it. We got to name all the animals. And so I think God has a vision of a harmonious creation, right? I think God's kingdom looks like right relationship with our planet, with creation, and all that sort of stuff. And I think Pokemon sort of aims at that, at least in the sense of, you know, let's treat animals good and work against organizations that seek to use them nefariously. So that's one of the things I often think about, and I like Pokemon because I feel like it sort of implicitly teaches respect for creation. But yeah, anything there for you?
Yeah, I like.
I'm just preaching my Pokemon.
Living harmonious. You're just preaching a what?
My Pokemon sermon.
I love it. Hey, I feel like people can get almost anything to preach nowadays. But I like how you said, like, it's, you know, we're created to be like harmonious, and guess that was a harder word to say than I thought. Because if you even go back to like biblical times, if you talk about like cruelty or like enslaving, it was Adam who named all the animals, you know? So if you go back then, like, we have authority over the earth, so we have authority over the animals. So is it enslaving of something you already have authority over? If you think about it, can you, like, you don't enslave your kids per se, you have authority over them, and you can make them clean. This is what I've heard. You can. I don't have kids. Barb can talk about that, but you know,
right. Whether or not they actually do the cleaning or not, yeah.
Right. But so that's just an interesting point to think about too.
Yeah.
If you think about the animals being enslaved.
Yeah. So in Genesis, we're given the animals authority over the animals, and we can, you know, use them for food. I think is part of the wording in Genesis. But still, though, are there ethical and theologically correct ways to relate to creation? Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should do something. You know what I mean? So I think humanity has learned that hard lesson in the last century of, you know, our relationship to our planet. Man, we probably shouldn't exploit it. We probably should learn how to treat it with sustainability. So let's wrap up for today. So if you subscribe with us on Patreon, we are going to have an extra question, an extra nefarious question. We're gonna pick a Pokemon. If we had to eat a Pokemon, which one would be our preferred cuisine? So a la Pal World. So as always, please give us a rate and review on the show, and thanks to all of our supporters for tonight. Any recommendations that we would like to give out as we come to a close this evening?
I've just been rewatching. I'm kind of with Barb, the 90s anime, because I've been doing so much baking. So I wanted something familiar in the background, and I decided to do all of Dragon Ball, like, you know, from start to finish. It's been a while. So it's been nice, you know, watching Goku with his little tail, and gosh, you could not do what you did in the 90s today. Oh, yeah. Wow, you could not do it.
You definitely could not do it.
It's so funny.
Oh, man. I feel like Japan is a little bit behind us with cancel culture, and a little bit's probably being gracious, but yeah. Nope. For me, I mentioned I've been geeking out on Sonic Frontiers. If you haven't played that game, if you like Sonic, if you like going fast, check it out. It's fun.
For me, going back to the 90s anime, other than Sailor Moon, the next anime I wanted to introduce the kids to is Yu Yu Hakusho. Because that's a good one. When I was in middle school, Kurama was definitely one of my anime crushes. So, going back on that...
Because he's a fox. He got a tight one.
Okay. I didn't even know until, you know, he transformed for the first time that he was a fox, okay? So it just happened to be like that. But that's then, yeah.
I support love. Support it.
I'm going to leave that one alone.
But even then.
All right, y'all. Oh, gosh. All right, y'all. Thanks for giving us a listen with this podcast. It's fun to talk about Pokemon always, even sort of some of the ethical questions it brings up. And so stay with us if you want for our extra question. And if you are tantalized to know which Pokemon we eat, please do support us on Patreon. And remember, everyone, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
Hello, friends. Are you enjoying what you're hearing from Systematic Geekology today in your earbuds, or whether it's on YouTube, or whether you're in traffic, or whether you're at work? Well, there's another way that you can stay engaged with us at Systematic Geekology, and that's on our Instagram account. Yes, hop over to Instagram, follow. We'll follow back, we promise. We post lots of fun stuff over there, whether they're updates on new podcasts that are coming out or getting ready to come out, or whether they're memes, or we're sharing what other of our friends are up to out in the world. Sometimes we go live at events, whether we're at a Comic-Con or whether we are just hanging out with friends on the back porch grilling out. You can follow us there. We also have videos and reels, like what's in Will's pull box from his local comic book store. He shares what he's reading in the world of comics. And then Christian is going to do some reviews of Spider-Man comics called Spidey Swing Bys. That's going to be fun. And then there's non-canon stuff. Non-canon? What? Yeah, Joshua's going to be reviewing one intellectual property from outside of the canon of his favorite fandoms, or a piece of literature that's a part of the biblical extra-canonical material. Man, that sounds like fun. But yeah, Instagram is one of my favorite social media outlets, and love to engage with friends and family over there. And so we hope that you can engage with us there.
Hey guys, Christian here to talk to you about the AMP Network. That is the Anazao Ministries podcasting network. That's what we do for all of us here together. You can follow the whole network in a single feed on Spotify at Anazao Ministries Podcast, or on the network page on Apple Podcasts to just see what we're all doing. And what are we doing? Well, we have plenty of things here. We've got the homily. You love Pastor Will. You want to hear Pastor Will preach. You hear the man doing a homily there. It's amazing. The man does spectacular work for Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Then we have the Whole Church podcast. If you want to hear Joshua and TJ talk to different people from around the church who have very different views on how things should go, check it out there. You want to go to My Seminary Life, you want to get some more Brandon Knight in your life, who doesn't want more of that? Go there, hear about the man, discuss his time at seminary, which is what he used to do. Now he's on other topics, and just head out there for what the rest of the man can do. Hear a lot of good stuff that way. Now you can head over to Let Nothing Move You. That's my podcast where I go through the Bible chapter by chapter, verse by verse. I started with Luke, then I went to Romans. Now I'm in Genesis, and I'm moving on from there. It's a good time if you want to hear how I view the Bible, how things should go there. You can do that. You can go to Dummy for Theology, where you hear Joshua Noel discuss the various theological topics that he has there in an attempt to show every side of the big discussions, leaving you with more questions than answers. If that infuriates you like me, but you still want to listen, head out that way. You can go to the Bible After Hours. We have the foul-mouthed preacher there, and he's going to deliver things that not ready for every ear to hear, but sometimes you need someone to be a little filthy out there, just to give a more progressive view of the church, to challenge the status quo of what is happening here. Do you agree with him? Do you not like him? How are you going to know if you don't listen to him? And finally, we have save best for last, the Clydes. Taylor and Elizabeth Clyde. You need some more pangalanging in your life, like all of us do, then head out there, see what's going on in their own life, in their own ministry, so you can hear the devotions and everything going on in their lives. Once again, that's the Anazao Ministries Podcasting Network, AMP, and we love you guys. See you next time.